Hey.
Back again.
How's it going?
Good. I thought we were supposed to have thunderstorms all day.
Yeah, we had it for about 20 minutes. No thunder, just rain.
No
So I was
flooding.
pretty
It's
happy
not
about
that
that.
long, yeah.
Yeah, so here we are, Duluth Conservative. We're on Tuesday night live streaming. Usually we're on Thursdays and we will post this on Thursday, but since I have to be out of town, we thought we'd do the show today because last week we had Mike Amory on and from the American Experiment, which was a great show. It was just a conversation, but we didn't do any news stories. And I know that there are many, many people that rely on us for their sole source of news information. So
Yes.
I figure we better get on the stick this week. So we got a
Yeah.
lot to cover, and we're going to try to do this in a nice, concise way. So first of all, Dave, how are you?
I'm surviving. Shouldn't have went to the gym last night because my arms are really tired. My elbows are. It's a different kind of pain than normal. So
I regret nothing. All right. Well, let's. Oh man, the websites on that I have loaded up just have a life of their own. I think AI is alive.
yeah.
All right, let's go through some of the stuff. Again, this is the Duluth Conservative, so we're going to start with the Duluth news first. And I wanted to say first, I think the nurses' strike is over. So did you hear that, Dave?
Yeah, I heard that, and they weren't going to announce many of the details until sometime today, and I just seen that it was over with. So
I just saw that. So that's good news. We need to have the nurses back on strike. Now, the thing that caught my attention when I was looking at this or listening to the woman talk about it was they were talking about how they were not being treated with dignity and respect. And it's so crucial, which is true. But how do you work for a place that doesn't give you respect? You don't feel like they're treating you dignified. How do you continue to work in that place? How do you? This is like a bad fight with your spouse.
right.
You got to watch what you say because that's going to come back. I don't know how you walk that back after you go back on the job and say, "Yeah, this is a great place to work." They don't treat me with dignity and they don't respect me, but still, what a great place to work. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and they agreed to the paycheck when they first signed on to the business, and now they're coming back for more money. So it's like,
Yeah, I don't know the particulars of the strike itself, so I can't comment on that. But
well, they're getting a 9.85% raise over 3 years, but it was like, well, you agreed to that wage before you started working there, so technically you're okay with the wage. Otherwise, you wouldn't have signed up with it.
well, at least they're not wearing shirts "Pay me what I'm worth," which is what the WNBA is wearing.
Right. Yeah.
And having lost $40 million last year, what their worth is, they owe about $400,000 a piece.
Yeah, seems fair. I think they should.
And plus all their, sports endorsements and all that stuff. I don't think they have much to complain about, to be honest.
No.
So the next thing is, you put on this. I want to talk about this Duluth candidate for city council last. Railtown is getting its first major development since 1940. You want to go through that?
Yeah, up by the Proctor ice arena that they just built a few years ago. They're going to develop the whole thing, put in shops and housing and more outdoor activities for them. And it seemed kind of funny to me that how quickly they can get something done. Yet Duluth, they have to have committees and takes them 5 years to make a decision that should have been made in 30 seconds. And why can't they just make a decision? Why can't Duluth just say, yeah, let's go, let's get this done?
So
Proctor just did it.
I don't want to talk about the current city council and mayor and all that stuff because I can't give you insight on this. I can tell you historically, and I'm talking about even from before we were born.
Right.
Duluth was one of the most corrupt cities. They rivaled Chicago. I mean, if they didn't like a business, it started on fire in the middle of winter, and the fire department doused it with so much water, it was a block of ice at the end.
Yeah.
This is what I've been told. I can't say that's a fact, but this is what I was told growing up. So that might have something. Maybe it's some legacy stuff where they just have an expectation not doing things very fast here.
Yeah, I mean, how many committees to run to come up with a plan for the Lester Park Golf Course? You know,
Ugh.
and nothing's been done.
Oh, that's just a sore spot with me. There's such an opportunity here
Yeah,
to have a beautiful resort and all this income and all this tax revenue, and they're just squandering it.
yeah, they're losing it because they can't make a decision. And someone come up to Proctor and said, "Hey, how about I do this?" Boom, it got approved and it's going to get going. We might not see it till next year. However, it got approved. Boom, it's moving along.
So I
So
don't know what the composition of the city council is like for Proctor, but I think in Duluth they're afraid. I think they're afraid of making the wrong choice and ticking off the wrong people. So
yeah,
what comes from fear is paralysis. They're going to be paralyzed from that.
yeah. So
All
that's what
right.
I thought. That's what I thought was interesting about that article was how quickly Proctor can move, yet Duluth is just stumbling along.
Yeah. So I want to move on to one of the Duluth City Council candidates, and I think we need to have all of the candidates for Duluth City Council on our show if we
Yeah,
can get them. So I'm going to send the invitation out to every one of them, and so the idea isn't to do some sort of ambush on them or some team up and beat up. Give their opinion, ask some questions, try to be consistent with the questions we ask. But I've got one. Um, there's somebody named David Clanaugh, and it's Clanaugh, and he is a candidate. Now, candidates for Duluth are nonpartisan; they don't have a party backing, but he's DFL endorsed. In fact, apparently, he's got the endorsement of the Democratic Socialists of America, and my hot little hands have the questionnaire for the endorsement process. And so I'm going to read you. And now this is alleged. I can't say for sure that this is his answers and these are the questions, but I have it from a source that this is true. So please take this with a grain of salt. I'm going to tell you what the questions are and the answers are, and we'll talk about the questions themselves more than the answers. So question number one: what effective change can you make on the city councils as socialist? How do you see the role of a socialist on city council to advancing the cause of socialism, and how will you use your position for agitation? So,
agitation.
it kind of just veered off there.
Yeah,
How do you use it for agitation? So, the answer was work in ways with people who don't understand what socialism is all about. People that haven't been, beaten down by socialism,
yeah,
and connect the dots, pose questions about their reality to advance socialist causes. So apparently you have to, maybe just get rid of reality to start thinking about it as a socialist term.
yeah.
Be a loud voice about what socialism is when door knocking. Overall, a lot of political education. Create a socialist bloc collective on city council. That's the thing that kind of scares me. Create a socialist bloc or collective on the city council, and engage with other counselors to challenge their point of view. So it kind of has an agitated kind of in your face kind of thing. So that's the first question. How would you work outside the city council to enhance political education? And it's door knocking, be a translator about what progressive economics are. So blah, 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 standard answer. Would you support if TPDSA pushed toward a referendum for a livable wage in Duluth? Enthusiastically, yes. So there's your socialist right there.
Yeah.
You're going to set the money that people can make, and you're going to take it from people who do the producing. That's classic socialism right there.
And that'll shut down the city almost instantaneously.
Oh yeah. What would you say about your concerns around your beliefs around racial issues? What would you say about concerns around your beliefs around racial issues? That's a $5 question right there.
Yeah.
You're not using AI for these. These are straight from somebody's brain. Yeah. Answer specifically around speaking around comments made around, wow, DEI. I'm going to read that sentence again and see how he mirrored the question. Specifically around speaking around comments made around DEI. If you're using around 3 times in your sentence and it's only like 15 words, you got a big problem.
Yeah.
That was one situation. He has worked in African American and indigenous communities and has a number of close friends of color. Wow. I've got black friends.
Yeah.
There's a one way to capitalism divides us. Some groups have been hurt more than others, but we have all been armed with a question mark. Personal experience of racism towards his daughter have affected him. It is more of a personal conversation. Again, so I'm taking on faith that these are actual questions and answers again for this guy. I don't know if that's true. This next question is really, really interesting. Here it is. Eric Forsman supports high-end housing, unbridled growth regardless of environmental concerns, and he has conflicts of interest with Minnesota Power. Wow, that's quite an opening for that.
Yeah.
How will you confront Eric Forsman about his conflict of interests? Can we count on you to publicly call out these conflicts of interest? And it says, David has had personal experience with people of power having conflicts of interest. We should work within the media to bring public pressure around those conflicts of interest. Get these contradictions and righteous anger out. When calling them out, offer the facts rather than potentially aggressive call-outs. If he has a conflict of interest, he will work to be aware. Okay. Somebody must be answering these for him because it's always third person.
Right. Yeah.
Again, these are supposed questions from the DSA, the Duluth Socialist Organization, to David Clanaugh, the candidate for City Council District 4. Next one. Would you be willing to work with TPDSA if elected in office on issues? Yes. He'll reach out to the DSA and make sure the DSA will hold him accountable. So he's going to be working with a socialist group to kind of come up with policy for Duluth instead of,
thinking for
right
himself.
there in the brain, right?
Yeah.
Would you support civil disobedience in council meetings? What would that support look like? Yes, I would join you and speak publicly about it through things like letters to the editor. So
that's not
having a city council meeting, he will get off his chair and walk back and join the people protesting himself.
Yeah.
It could be kind of fun. I mean, he could yell stuff at himself and then run back to his chair and then answer it.
Yeah.
Get really heated. What is a soundbite answer of policies that address systemic racism? How do we compensate for the history of white privilege and wealth to advance BIPOC individuals? Well, you're really smacking right on the head, aren't you?
Yeah.
Don't try to hide your racism. Just pull it right out. The way we police is problematic. There is an overemphasis on certain parts of the city. We need a policing approach. More policies like clean and green over policing. Due to layers of historical oppression and trauma, we need real ways of addressing that through equity rather than equality. Is that like somebody saying, I'm going to beat you so hard your ancestors are going to feel it?
Basically, yeah.
How can you bring swing council members with you to secure policy changes? Do you think there is potential to work together? David has worked with Eric Forsman on Habitat for Humanity. His friends with Therese Tomadek. Mutual friend with Roz. We have to work together in an assertive yet civil manner. Build relationships and shared values. According to this, 32 in favor, 0 for no, an endorsement, and 6 abstinence. So if this is right, he has been endorsed by the Duluth Socialists. That should be an alert to everybody to avoid this guy like the Black Plague.
Yeah, I'm guessing TPDSA stands for Twin Ports Democratic Socialist Association.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Something like
I will
that.
actually put a link to their website. Yeah, and it's Twin Ports DSA. So yeah, you're right. TP is Twin Ports. But yeah, in the comments, I'll put a link to their website so you can check them out. If you think that's the kind of guy that would be helpful for this city, that's your guy. I think he would be a disaster and just drive more people of wealth away and more businesses away from this city and try to strip as much wealth as he could from the city before it just goes under. Too many of these
Yeah,
people. We already have too many on the city council the way it is. One more could be the death knell of this city.
yeah, especially if they're more persuasive than the others. The ones we got on there are just kind of followers and waiting for someone else to make a decision. That's why they've created all these councils and stuff like that. And I mean,
The big problem is they block together. Like he's even talking about it. He would create a block to with the other people that think like him. They would just push things through. That's his whole
right.
point. So he's not an independent thinker. He's a socialist. That's
And we're going to see two cities go down that path and to get destroyed if they get elected. New York with that guy, and Minneapolis with the Fetch dude.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about Minneapolis. Believe that.
Oh yeah,
That's
and
coming up.
if we go down the same direction as them, we'll have another empty Detroit.
Yes.
Duluth will be just as empty as Detroit. Just with a better view. So
We've sometimes talked about being able to build a wall around the Minneapolis, around 694, 494, and just contain it. They could be their own little state, or whatever they are.
right.
All right.
Yeah, if you get rid of them, everyone else votes one way, the whole state, and then Minneapolis, St. Paul, inside the 694, 494 corridor, votes for somebody else. So
right, you get rid of Minneapolis, St. Paul. This is a Republican state.
Correct.
Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Duluth is still very Democrat, or it has been in the past, and is switching. Rochester, Mankato, but Minneapolis, St. Paul is the anchor that keeps us in blue throughout every presidential election so far.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for Duluth? Besides the fact that we're under Canadian smoke alerts again? Oh my God.
No, I was looking at the city council notes and there was nothing really exciting going on, but that's normal. They just say yes to everything.
I walk outside, breathe in. It's like cool Canadian smoke. Ah, yes. Get my 2 packs a day.
Yeah.
Let's go down to Minnesota Legislature. Some sad news. There is a legislator that died. A senator died unexpectedly. Bruce Anderson. Sounds like he's been around for about 30 years in different offices. He's been a senator since 2012. And I don't know the specifics of what killed him or why he died, but so he died, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, they said it was unexpected, so we won't know for a little while before we find out exactly the facts on him. So
so that's all I have to say about him. I didn't know him, so
no.
But here's somebody you might recognize. Nicole Mitchell, found guilty. This woman went through, and did you watch the videos of her rooting around in that room? And
yeah, she wasn't there to check on her mother-in-law. So,
oh yeah, I mean, some of the so the story is that her mother-in-law wakes up and she's this Nicole Mitchell is in her house, right?
Yep.
And according to Nicole Mitchell, she was going to the house to take back some things that were very personal, her father's ashes and one of her favorite shirts. But then another story came out. I think it was when she was being arrested. She was just there to check on her mom, or check on the person to make sure that their dementia was acting up. So one of the questions was, well, in the trial, what were the signs that said she was having an event? That was crickets. So that was kind of funny. So the thing I want to talk about, though, besides the fact that she got convicted, now she's facing 6 months to, what was it, 30 years?
35 years. Somewhere, yeah. There's a pretty big difference in that one.
It'll be really interesting to see what she's, where she goes. So it was a nonviolent crime. I can't see them putting her in for many years.
No.
Kind of this kind of crime, since she wasn't there to hurt anybody, apparently she didn't have anything with her. I'm thinking she's going to get less than a year.
Well, the minimum was 6 months, and she did have she her second guilty verdict was on because she had a tool for breaking into houses.
Okay.
Now, you could also according to what I heard, it was a crowbar. So if you had a big metal crowbar, that could actually be considered a weapon, but the state didn't go after her as using that as a weapon.
Sure.
So I don't, I guess kind of agree with him. I can see her using it to get in the house, but not to hurt anyone. So
Well, hopefully that was her intent only. The
yeah,
question I
hopefully,
have is, why is everybody being so accommodating for this woman? So the first thing is, she's a senator, right?
yep,
And this happened last year, but the
15
Democrats
months
didn't kick
ago.
her out. They didn't kick her out and have a special election last year. They kept her in. And then she got to have the deciding vote of whether or not to investigate her
Right.
in the Senate. She voted. Guess how she voted? She didn't want to be investigated, so she voted no.
Yeah.
She was the deciding vote. And then they introduced a motion to expel her. Guess what? She was the deciding vote. She said, no, you're not expelling me. I'm going to pass legislation for you, although
Yeah.
I was caught red handed breaking into a house. I mean, this isn't some kind of vagary white collar crime. This is actually physically doing something, lying about it. And so then they delay her trial until after session. How
Yeah.
accommodating is that? She gets to vote on all this stuff. And then now she's come in and she's convicted, and she puts out a statement and says, I shall resign no later than August 4th. And why is that? Why August 4th? Shouldn't it be immediately? Well, I've got some things to work on, some projects for my constituents, because I'm sure I still pull a lot of weight as a convicted felon.
Yeah.
I also need I get an extra check, and I get to
Right.
stay in healthcare for another month for free.
Yeah.
And my kids need that. So, it's all basically about me. I didn't see this coming. I didn't think I was ever going to get convicted. So I didn't take care of any of this stuff in the last year.
Year. Yeah. She had a year to fix it, but
And they said, okay. As far as I know, nothing's being done about it. She's just going to get until that time to gracefully resign.
well, I mean, otherwise they'd have to call back into session and then create a vote to expel her. And who knows, if they even have the votes then, because the Democrats the only concern about is staying in power. Therefore, they're not, even though they say they're going to get rid of her, they don't actually want to get rid of her.
Yeah, but they got a big problem with her, right? I mean, this is
It's
a problem for the Democrats. Even if they are politicians, they don't want a convicted person, freshly convicted of a crime, to be a senator, because they don't get to take the moral high ground during the election season. And that's what they're really about.
right, yeah. But yeah, and I was thinking about it last night. It was like, well, if the judge is too harsh on her or is completely fair with his sentencing, the governor's just going to step in and commute her sentence, so she won't have any.
I, I brought that up to a group of people today, and they're like, that would be too embarrassing even for Walz. And I'm like, it's
Well,
like you don't even know the guy.
yeah, but Walz isn't going to win the next governor election, so what does he care? You
Well,
know?
that's kind of my point too. And he has, depending on if she got sentenced to 5 years, TikTok, Walz, you're on a year notice now. So yeah,
Yeah.
you can do it anytime next year. But too embarrassing for Walz? I didn't even know that was possible.
Well,
Uh,
we have until September 10th, 10 a.m. is when she's going to get sentenced.
yeah,
So
we'll see.
we can talk about our conspiracy theories until then and see what actually happens to her.
It's really depressing. That's like less than 2 months away.
So she's in jail until then.
No. I think she's free until then. Got to be able to do her senatorial duties.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
everyone else in the U.S. would be in jail, but she can
Right.
she's out. She's fine.
Let's see. We'll move on to Walz. Like I said, we got 12 pages of stuff, and I'm going to try to cherry pick this so we don't go too long here.
Yep.
And I'm going to skip the one where the Walz's killer, or the guy that killed those two Minnesota legislators, said that Walz wanted him to kill those people, and I still don't give any weight to that guy. So when you can't go into a mind of an idiot like that, sorry, not idiot,
psychopath,
crazy person.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he was complaining about the jails too. So,
was he?
Yeah.
Not good enough.
They were loud and they were keeping him up at night. And
you call this crab?
Yeah. This is the worst Mai Tai I've ever had.
I know. Before we go into the next thing, I want to show this this image. The 48th person has been convicted in Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. 48 people have been convicted. Who of importance has been convicted, though? Who's the higher up? Who's the ringleader? How far up does it go? There's one woman I heard of that I actually knew of a name. Other than that, they're getting all the lowball people, but they haven't gone up the ladder. And it's kind of surprising to me, too, because it seems like those guys would be being used to turn on the upper people, because getting the low-level people is nothing. You can convince these guys to do this. It's, you got to get the people in charge, and that's tapping into the Department of Education and maybe into Walz's cabinet somehow.
Yeah.
So, but that's pretty amazing, right? 48 people. Good God. Okay. Let's talk about them. Minneapolis is going to have a mayoral race. And Mayor Fry has been doing, I was trying to figure out what he was up to. So he was like doing a humiliation tour. We showed a clip of this like 2 or 3 weeks ago of him dancing at a Somali event, speaking Somalian. And I'm like, what? Does he really need the Somali vote that bad? Well, it turns out he does, because there's a guy named Omar Fateh. Let's just bring this into the playhouse. So this is a Somali immigrant. Well, his parents were immigrants and he was born in, I want to say, New York or DC. And he is a socialist, like with a capital S. So when the guy was running in New York, and I was like, my God, I live in a world where Eric Adams is a better candidate than this guy. Now I'm looking at going, good Lord, Fry is a better candidate than this guy. So he is a full-on socialist. He's a young guy. I've heard him speak, and he's a very interesting dude. He has very interesting perspectives. So I'm going to bring up one of the things he had to say. Let me just load this up here. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, here we go. And we will. This is what happens when I only have like a minute.
Well, I heard that he did get the DFL endorsement, but Fry is gonna go after that endorsement. So it's
because of the way they did it. Let me explain that. I'm going to talk about this guy. I'm going to play this first, and then we'll talk about that endorsement. This is the DFL endorsed mayor candidate for Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Being called terrorists. We heard them being called drug dealers. We heard a lot of insults. We heard that they're a threat to our national security. And that's a flat out lie. You want to know who the real threat is, Madam President? I'll give you a hint. They don't look like our chief author. They don't look like the folks up in the gallery. They don't look like the folks on the rotunda. They look like many of the members that sit in the front. And you don't have to take my word for it. According to DHS, Madam President, the greatest domestic threat facing the United States comes from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race, not our immigrants. We are safer and we're better off because of them.
That's interesting. It's white people, not immigrants. I thought we were a country of immigrants.
Yeah.
Are only non-white people immigrants now? I don't understand. But this is a flat out racist. And he considers Somalia still his home. He talks about us and in our country and everything. So he was born here, but he still thinks of himself as Somalian. And he's running for Minneapolis mayor. Absolutely should not allow. I keep getting deeper on this. I kept saying you shouldn't have a politician who's got 2 citizenships. I still believe that. You shouldn't be able to be a politician or a judge if you were not born here. And I'm thinking now it has to go past the first generation of people that lived here before you can start being a judge or a politician. Because these guys are so tied to their original country. And it's amazing to hear somebody speak like that with no gasps, nobody challenging them. No, you say this with a different race and a different target, and people will be having a riot. But if he says it, no problem. Mayor candidate.
Representative Jim Jordan is introducing that same policy federally. So you won't be able to be president or, senator representatives unless you get rid of your by country dual citizenship. Yep.
That only seems fair to me. I don't know why you think you can serve 2 masters.
Right.
Who do you trust? I mean, how can you trust somebody like that? So according to what I've heard, again, this is something you have to look up yourselves because I don't have a lot of access to this news right now. Fry was contesting what the election was about. He said, let's go. Let's get out of here. We don't have a quorum. If we leave, they leave. The DFL then goes, well, we're having all these problems with our voting machines and everything. So by a show of hands, who wants this guy to be the candidate? And guess what? Everybody there threw their hand up and boom, he's the candidate. He's the endorsed candidate for the DFL. The problem is he might have a good chance of winning because the government imported so many people from Somalia here in the mid-90s and later that they have a huge voting block. If they all vote based on their race, and that's it, which is what a lot of groups do, they have a good chance of winning.
Well, Fry, this is just the DFL endorsement, so Fry could still jump into and force a primary as a Democrat.
Absolutely.
So, as we've seen in the past elections, you can jump in and try to get rid of this guy through a primary election. So, hopefully, Fry will get into the primary, lose, or win the primary, and then lose to a ham sandwich, a bucket of chicken,
a ham
something.
Sandwich.
Yeah, something in the main election. That's we can't have any of those.
We better get these votes out. The mayor is starting to turn.
Yeah. Well, there's a city in Minnesota where they voted in a dog as the mayor. So it was a cute golden retriever, So
well, who can vote against the golden retriever, to be honest?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't see why we couldn't put up a bucket of KFC for mayor of Minneapolis.
Busted in Minnesota. Duo pleads guilty after flooding election offices with fake voter registrations. Minnesota, fake voter registrations. So this is happening, and people want to bury their head in the sand and say it's not, but it is. You got to get control of this because if people don't believe in the elections, bad stuff happens.
Right.
The only thing that keeps us going as a country is fair and free elections. So great stuff. I'll post this Gateway Pundit.
Well, at least they caught him. That's a good thing. So
Right.
if you're
I
thinking
mean,
of frauding the election, just know you're going to go to jail. Not with Nicole Mitchell, but
she's not going to
she's
jail.
not going to see jail time. But
Speaking of Minnesota politicians and racism, because this seems to be coming up a lot now. Minnesota HR director now on leave after saying white folks are morally bankrupt and liars. Minnesota Pollution Control Agency HR director Vonnie Phillips then called an Alpha News reporter an effing rotten biatch from his official state email. This is classic. He sends out this email. And F you. Notice I did not use my work email. He's using his work email. It's from state.mn.us. He tried to retract it right after. He's like, too late.
Yeah.
Oopsie. Yeah. So I think we got a little bit of a problem. I think we do have a racist problem, and I think we do have systemic racism in this state. It's just not what maybe you think it is.
Yeah.
So at least they, put him on leave. They didn't outright fire him. I haven't seen the riots yet. I haven't seen the place burning down.
Yeah, they're just going to put him on leave, wait till it blows over, and then rehire him, give him back pay. So
yeah, right.
That's the way this Minnesota is.
I found this article. Go ahead.
Heaven forbid we hold somebody accountable in Minnesota nowadays.
True. I found this article to be extremely interesting, and I will have a link to it. Minneapolis researches municipal grocery stores, examine so-called food apartheid. So if you read through the article, they're talking about how there's food deserts, an area of the city that does not have readily available grocery stores. But the report notes that it uses the term food apartheid rather than food desert to be consistent with the Minneapolis Food Action Plan. And then they go on to say why this is. And it says, regarding municipally owned grocery stores, the report notes that no major U.S. city has opened a publicly owned and operated grocery store. Geez, I wonder why. I think there's plenty of examples of this if you go over to Moscow and Russia and see how they worked.
Well, and does the article, I didn't read the article, but does the article go into why all the grocery stores have closed in that area?
I believe they went, and I'm looking at this article right now, but I read part of the report, and it was basically, food apartheid calls attention to the policies, systemic racism, and other oppressive powers that have created and prevent certain areas from having accessible and affordable grocery stores. So they blame racism on it again.
Yeah, but that's not the way it is. These places have been stolen, have been ripped off so many times and for so much money that it's financially no longer worth it for a grocery store to stay in these areas. And then you got the city council basically saying, well, we're not even going to file a report on it because, it was under $100, so we're not even going to file a report. We're not even going to send a cop car. And eventually these places go, okay, if you're not going to stop crime in our business, then we're going to leave. It's as simple as that. The city council created this problem.
Yes.
By not allowing the cops to. I mean, they're still short 300 cops. They're still short, 30-40% of the cops that they're supposed to have. So they don't have time to go do little stuff like that. Grocery stores packed up and left. Very simple.
It says right on here that grocery stores average between a 1% and 3% profit margin. That's
Mhm.
pretty thin. So
Yeah.
any kind of these smash and grabs, people going in and taking food, and we've been seeing it all over the nation. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's being stemmed now, but there's nothing you can do about it as a grocery store owner. You can't stop them. You can't pursue them. And people don't feel safe working there. Plenty of places have been shutting down. San Francisco is a really good example of that, but that happened in Minneapolis too. It's
Yeah.
not that grocery stores aren't going there because they don't want to go there. It's because they can't go there because they can't earn a living. They can't lose money at it. That's socialism right there. Socialism is having a store there even though it's losing money. That's
Yeah.
CBS doing the Colbert show and losing 30, $40 million a year on this guy and keeping it going. And people saying, well, we should keep it going just because it's a good show. Well, no, it's first of all, objectively not a good show. But secondly, it's costing a company money to keep it on. That's not why companies go into business, is to lose money so you have something. It's to
Yeah.
make a profit and do something at a reasonable profit, right?
Right. And who's going to pay for this grocery store when people start stealing from that? Well, the Minneapolis taxpayers.
Absolutely.
So not only are you going to pay, you have to pay for your own groceries. You have to pay for someone else stealing from the socialist grocery store.
Yeah.
Or are you going to put 50 cops there too to prove a point?
Right.
I don't know.
All right. I'll just touch on this. Scott Jensen announced the second run for Minnesota governor. Do you know much about Scott?
Well, yeah, I've basically known what he ran out in last time. He was he was thinking he lost because of his abortion stance, because he didn't believe in having an abortion for rape or incest or saving the woman's life. So
He didn't even
he's
believe in abortion for that.
no. So so
That's a
even
bit
though
extreme.
even though abortion would be pretty low on the agenda for this next election,
Yeah.
is he going to change his mind on that? If he
Oh no.
does,
Well, then I wouldn't vote for him anyway.
yeah. So he might be a good governor, but he's not electable anymore because of his stance. And if he changes his mind on his stance, that makes it worse. So
Yeah.
I wish him luck, but I see right now I don't see him high in the stance of winning. So
Yeah. All right. I'm
I'm
going to move on. But
sure we
we're
can
we're
find someone
cruising.
better.
I hope whoever does it just, and if Walz runs, they just beat Walz like
Yeah.
crazy. Another touch on fraud. Feds execute search warrants connected to a massive scheme to defraud a Minnesota housing program. So, the good news that's coming to this is that they are catching these guys. This is good news. The bad news is it seems like they really are targeting Minnesota for a lot of fraud. And I know that American Experiment has a page on it that just tracks all the fraud. And I think it was up to $668 million now since, probably 5 years now. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and you notice the very first word of this headline. It says feds. The
Yeah.
federal government is doing this. Our Keith Ellison is spending so much time suing Trump over parking tickets or jaywalking
Yeah.
or saying the bad word that he's completely ignored the state. There's another guy along with Walz that has to go.
Oh, absolutely. So this is interesting, this sentence here. Since Minnesota became the first state to offer Medicaid coverage for housing stabilization services, homelessness, dozens of new companies have been created and enrolled in the programs. These companies and the individuals who run them have taken advantage of the housing crisis and the drug addiction crisis in Minnesota to prey on individuals who need help getting back on their feet as they recover from drug addiction. So find the most vulnerable people, the ones that begrudgingly have to pay to support, and then take the money from them and then line your own pockets. Good job. All right. Okay. So I read this new proposed health standards for schools. Did you read this?
No, I didn't get a chance to read that one.
It's tough to read this thing. It's pretty dry and all over the place. But Doug Wardlow, and he is, I don't know who he is. He said that proposed health standards seek to indoctrinate children in gender ideology, violating parental rights. I'm going to share the news article. And this is from Alpha News. So I went through and read this a little bit, and it's supposed to be the health education standards, right? I scanned it. I know I read it to the point I could. It was all over the place. It talks about a lot of policy, procedure, and stuff like that. But I did a find on it, and I didn't see the word exercise anywhere in the document. And this is the health standards document. But I did see teaching sixth graders how to wear a condom and all this sexual education stuff. I mean, there's a lot of it. So I started thinking about this. Now I want to get your opinion on this, Dave, because I haven't actually floated this past you yet. But my idea is that why is the state educational system so ingrained and entrenched in teaching sexual education to kids? Now, this seems to be something that it wasn't like this when we were in school. It started happening when we left school. Maybe last year or so, they started doing sex education class, but it was pretty minor, right?
Yeah.
This stuff is pretty indoctrinating. So my thought is that what the state wants to do is they want to teach this because this is probably the most intimate thing that they can talk to you about. This is the most personal thing in your life. And if they can have an idea and a say in this to you and have this conversation with you, normalize having conversations like this with you, there's no amount of privacy that you can keep away from the state after that. And that's what they want. They want to be able to break down the barriers to beat you down so that they can have these conversations. You can't ever feel like you're being violated because it's like you're being violated in school already.
Well, yeah, and that's why Walz wanted to get rid of funding for private schools and charter schools. Because if you're in a private school, you can't be indoctrinated. You can't have these conversations with children about things that they shouldn't be having. That the school and the government should never have a conversation about.
Right.
So, right, they want to get in. They want to indoctrinate you. The state does, and they want to make it so that you will share all your information willingly.
Yeah. And to do that, they get them young so that if you're talking about this with the government,
Right.
there's nothing you won't talk about. Not much more personal than that.
Yeah, because I've definitely noticed that there was a difference in privacy as far as the kids go. It's like, well, I posted I went to this restaurant and this is where I am, and it's like, well, you shouldn't be telling people that.
Right.
It's like, so the social media is helping the Democrats in the school systems, so everything is out in the open.
I'm old enough to remember in the 70s, if you would have said, I'm going to give you this device and it's going to track everything you say and everywhere you go, people would have thrown that out of their houses as far as they could, ran it over with their cars. They would never have allowed this. And now people have these echoes in their houses and they're constantly monitored. You walk around with a phone, it can constantly monitor what you're saying, where you are, what you're doing, how fast I wear this, right? It knows when I sleep, what my not my blood pressure, but my heart rate is. If I go running, how active I am. It's crazy. And, and I'm pretty adamant about not giving that stuff away. But I use this because I like the data, but I'm submitting that to somebody. Like, I think it's going to Google at this point because it's a Fitbit. And it's just insane. But at least we didn't have to have these kind of conversations in school. I'm thankful for that. We were a lot more private when we went to school, and it was better that way. And I know a lot of teachers may not like this, but I don't think you're qualified to talk to kids about this because this is too sensitive an issue, and you can cause lifelong problems by having these conversations. And teachers are not equipped for that, and they shouldn't be equipped for that because they should be teaching math and history and writing and reading. If somebody's watching this and they have a comment about that, please leave it. See if that holds any weight or if you just think that's a crazy notion. But that occurred to me, and I thought I'd talk about it in the show.
Well, and the ironic part of it is that you have protesters protesting Dodge or Doge because they were looking at Social Security numbers on a federal level, but they won't be protesting when the school is talking condoms to your sixth
Right.
grader.
Right.
You know, where do you draw the line between the two? Well, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
way over the line. Once again, the state is going way over the line, and
as long as you talked about Dodge or Doge
Doge.
and Minnesota Doge, you know, if you look at what they had to say, there was protesters outside that event when I went. Now I was talking to Mike Amory about it again today, and he was talking about that. And he's like, most of the things that we're proposing aren't even cuts to current spending. They're stopping the excessive spending that's going to happen. Like, I think that, and I'll try to bring up this chart. I should have done this, but if you look at the growth in just public education, 3% growth in students, like a 19% growth in teachers, and then like a 289% growth in administration.
Oof.
We don't need that. You get rid of that. That's what they're talking about cutting. And then when they talk about Medicaid cuts, he's like, yes. And the cuts that they did with the big beautiful bill kind of mirrored what they were talking about in the Minnesota Doge. They talked about that last year. But he said, yeah, there'll be cuts in Medicaid, but it's cuts to people that aren't eligible for it in the first place. You know, things like, are you alive? Do you live in the state? It's simple things. Why would you be against that? It makes our system worse if we're supporting people in other states or who are dead. That's money going to somebody who doesn't deserve it.
Right.
Keep that money, then you can make the services better, right?
Yeah, even that representative Jasmine, her dead mother was still, or dead grandma was still receiving Social Security benefits, Medicaid, and she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. So throw her in jail.
Right. All right. Let me see if I can get this. 1 second. So what I'm going to talk about is the University of Minnesota and something they just decided to do to the current students that go to that school. Let me just save this and I'll display it. Okay, here it comes. Here it comes. It's coming.
It's working.
Here we go.
The little dot is rolling.
Da, 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 da. Now we think we lost a viewer with that. Okay. U of M slaps students with a $200 fee to help athletic budgets as the U starts paying athletes. So now you, as a student of a university, get to pay extra money to support the athletes whose sole job for having athletics is to bring money into your school. There's no reason to have a football team at a university or a hockey team. It's nice, but there's no real reason for it. They generate revenue. That's good. They're going to charge the students for it? That's insane.
That's basic socialism right there.
Yes.
Because the athletes aren't paying as it is. They're getting a free education out of the deal. That was their exchange.
Yeah.
So
that's the payment.
Yeah.
Right?
So $40,000 a year, or whatever the payment is for the main university to go to school there. That's what they were saving. That's their payment. So now they want to pay them more over that. That's ridiculous.
It was always, even when I went to college, back when I was undergrad, way back in the late 80s, it was telling to see who was the athletes and who weren't, especially the hockey team. Nothing wrong with them. I liked all the hockey team players. They were great guys, but they certainly weren't the students there, and they were being carried by everybody that went to that school.
Right.
Not all of them, but a lot of them.
It's just, okay. They're just, it's just another group that just the board of directors just can't handle the job, is what it boils down to.
Okay, let's go on to the violent left. I only have this stuff in here because we have so many instances of it. Kentucky school board chairman resigns after calling for people to shoot Republicans on social media. I'd be okay with the NRA if those psychos were just once the victims of mass shootings. Wink, wink, please shoot Republicans. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
hilarious.
funny joke.
Yeah.
And that kind of rhetoric is what leads to people getting shot to death, and they need to stop. If they don't stop pretty soon, it's going to lead to something really, really bad.
And that's what I want to find out from that guy who shot the Minnesota politicians. Is obviously, I don't think Walz had anything to do with it, but something he had been constantly, daily, been told who's the bad people.
Yes, fascists.
Who are the
Gestapo.
fascists?
Right.
Who are the Nazis? And he was going to shoot somebody. So you got to be careful who you do this garbage to. So.
And so please, if you don't like somebody and you don't think they should have the political views they have, come up with a compelling argument and talk to them about it. There's no need to go off and do violence. It's not going to help with politics at all.
Right.
I found this kind of interesting, different article here. It is the, where is it? Sorry. This New York Times article, it's an opinion. Is it time to stop snubbing your right-wing family? That's an interesting question. I don't remember snubbing anybody in my left-wing family. And to be honest, my family is fairly Democrat or fairly liberal, and they don't snub me. So it's pretty sad if somebody is snubbing their family just because of their politics.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, aren't you family first?
You think. Yeah, family is first, right?
Yeah.
And
blood is thicker than water, or whatever they call.
Well, it's not 100% true, though. I will disassociate myself from a family if I think they are insane. But that's nothing to do with politics. I have people with completely 180-degree views on politics than me, but we get along just great because you know why? We know not to talk to each other about it. But it's funny because I read this and I say, you're snubbing the right-wing family and you're so much better than they are. Let's just remember, the CDC planned quarantine camps nationwide for people who didn't get the COVID vaccination. Now, I'm not saying all liberals are against were for this. And I'm not saying only conservatives didn't want to get the shot, but it's fairly lopsided the way it worked. So if you were okay with quarantine camps, stop talking to me about peace and love and how good you are.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what the Democrats are trying to sell you, that they're the party of peace and tolerance, but they're the ones. Oh, we should not talk to our right-wing family members. Well, that's intolerant. So
yeah, it's very intolerant, and it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I was going to say that I was going to skip this one, but I'm going to show it. The violent left is being called out. Trump dropped the receipts on a bunch of violence that is being done against ICE agents. I'll share it real quick. And it's true. And like I said, calling people that they're in the Gestapo, that they're threats to democracy, that they're Nazis, leads to this kind of stuff. These guys are just trying to enforce standing laws.
Right.
And my question to the people that are trying to prevent it is it the rapists you want to keep in the country, or is it the murderers, or is it the drug dealers? Who is it that you're standing up for when you fight these guys? So this article, and I'll put a link to it, goes through some of the stuff that's been happening, which is pretty bad.
Yeah, that one there, they're throwing rocks at the ICE agents, and
Yep.
luckily the drivers of the ICE cars didn't turn left and run these people over.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny because you watch it and you're like, oh, I can't. We just want to run these guys over, but honestly, you don't, because they're people,
Yeah.
But it's funny watching the protests too, and seeing these guys. They just antagonize the ICE agents. They just are so belligerent. They go up to them and they scream in their faces. And as soon as the ICE agent does anything to stop them, they just start screaming all over it. Record this. It's brutality. I mean, you're so lucky these guys have the control they do, because I guarantee you, if this was 200 years ago and you did that, you'd just be on a pike somewhere.
Yeah.
You guys didn't take it back then. I'm not saying that's better, but I'm saying it's different, man.
Yeah.
And so we're still on the violent left piece. And I just want to tell you that there was a reporter at the assassination attempt when they shot Trump's ear, and he was there, and he was I think he was a CNN reporter or CBS News correspondent. So he talks about how traumatic that was to see that. So let's show what was traumatic. What was traumatic about that? So I'm going to share this, if I can figure out what I'm doing at this point. What the heck am I doing here? Now I'm losing it, man.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Still wants to show us the old screen.
Yeah, I did something wrong. Okay, here we go. Share screen. Okay, here goes.
Of us there, it was such a horror, because you saw an emerging America, and it wasn't the shooting, Chuck. I got diagnosed with PTSD within 48 hours. I got put on trauma leave, not because I think of the shooting, but because you saw it in the eyes, the reaction of the people. They were coming for us. If he didn't jump up with his fist, they were going to come kill us.
I know.
He made it about himself. Honest to God, he made somebody being shot in front of him about himself. And you could see in their eyes, they were coming after us, but they didn't, because he could put up his fist. I hate I break it to you, buddy. They didn't even care about you. First of all, they were concerned about the people that actually got shot as well. I mean, one guy got killed.
Right.
Secondly, they wanted to make sure they weren't thinking about you at all. As much as he wants to think it's all about him. It's nothing to do with him. Maybe that was the traumatic experience.
Well, maybe he was part of the cause that got this nut job to help shoot the president. Well, you constantly lie, constantly tell stuff, constantly have Walz talking about he's a Nazi and Gestapo, and he's a horrible person, and you need to do something about it. Well, you found your psycho.
True.
The media, helped create a guy like that.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess I could kind of see his point as, you're with CNN, or CBS. Yeah. I mean, you guys have been pushing this narrative for, 10 years, that he's the devil. So.
Well, the interesting thing that my wife found out about, and she was blown away by, I knew this for a while, was it was the only rally that CNN went to televise.
Yep.
And they did it in high def. And that is suspect as can be, right? High def, right there, and he gets shot at that event. That's a crazy coincidence, man.
Yeah, you want to talk about conspiracy theories? That's where the DOJ Pam Bondi should be investigating, because if there was any correspondence between these people and the shooter.
Right. Well, let's move on here to Democrat Senator Jeff Merkley.
here. The estimated death total from Trump's policies is now estimated to be in the multiple millions.
Let that sink in. His policies have killed multiple millions of people.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear the backing of that.
A new study published in The Lancet, a highly respected medical journal, estimates that over the next 5 years, as many as an additional 14 million individuals might die because of the sudden cutoff of programs around the world, American programs in nutrition, tuberculosis, malaria, AIDS, and more. These programs have not only been essential to global health, they've been essential to our relationships with countries.
So this guy blames Trump for multiple millions of people being dead, which might happen, according to him, because we've cut off programs, taking care of the rest of the world and just going to take care of ourselves. At what point does it end? How long do we take care of these guys before they take care of themselves? It's been happening now for 80 years, since World War II.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time that they step up and take care of their own people. Wouldn't that be a delight?
Yeah, if we kept the money here, we could create things for the Americans that would keep them safe and would keep them healthy.
Right. Do you want to go through the next two, or should we just move on to national news? We're at a minute or hour 6 now.
Yeah, we can skip them. It was just
because I really want to get to the next one. Let's go to national news. I want to talk about this.
National, yep.
The Late Show with Stephen Colbert has been canceled, and conspiracy theorists are saying that it's politically motivated. They're saying that Trump called down and said, "You're going to cancel this show." And if you like to be a conspiracy theorist and think that way, that's your right. The show was losing between $30 and $50 million a year for CBS. $30 to $50 million a year spent on Colbert. And talking to one person, they said, well, they were watching the show when he announced it, and it's like, oh, it's so sad. I just wish they could keep it on. I said, look, they're losing $30 to $50 million. Yeah, they should still keep it on. Well, that's socialism right there.
Yeah.
Losing a lot of money for something you don't need and most people don't want. That's like the definition of socialism. They don't like it that it's the definition, but that's what it is.
And I was reading this morning that CBS is trying to sell the whole network, so they can't have losing. They can't have losing shows. They need to get rid of the dead weight, so their books look profitable, so someone will buy them.
Right. So a couple days before this happened, this is where the conspiracy theories come in. It says Colbert came on and talked about his parent company settling a lawsuit with Trump. He said, you may take our money, but you will never take our dignity. You may, however, purchase our dignity for the low price of $16 million. We need the cash. Well, how right you are there, Stevie boy. And he also said that the settlement Paramount was a bribe. I'm not calling it a bribe, but it was a bribe. And 2 days later, he's on his show saying that they're canceled. Now, I understand that you may see it together, but he even said, we need the money. Yeah, you need the money because you're losing $40, $50 million a year on your stupid butt, where you can do a YouTube channel for almost nothing.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to get rid of the guy, but like we were talking about last night, it's like, Johnny Carson was on the air when we were born.
Yep.
And then, when Letterman entered the fray, it was just, now we had 2 networks. Now we've got 3 networks doing exactly the same thing, a bunch of Carson wannabes. And they're not doing it nearly as good a job. And now we've got 3 of them. So you've got the one audience that's split 3 ways now.
4. There's 4 of them that are like that.
Yeah. Because even Fox has got Gutfeld, which is not quite the same, but still,
That's
you've
not
got
the same thing.
So now after the news, 10:30, we've got the same choice. If you're watching the 3 majors,
The thing about Carson was he was smart enough to do political humor, but he did it even-handed and not as aggressive. Like, he would make funny little jokes. It wasn't mean-spirited, and he didn't go after people personally.
Yeah.
and he knew how to do it. He knew how to play it around so it wasn't the main focus of his monologue. He'd do one or two and he'd move on. These guys don't understand it. And Johnny Carson did a great interview with 60 Minutes where he even literally said, these people don't get it. Just because you have a late show, they think you have to have these important topics on. But then you get this feeling that you're important yourself, and you're not. Your opinions aren't that important. You're there to entertain, and you're entertaining everybody. It was a great comment. And not enough of these guys realize it. David Letterman was the same way. He was just like Johnny Carson. He was just entertaining to everybody, and I never knew what his politics were until George Bush got elected.
Yeah.
And then things went really off the rails with David Letterman. He never came back from that. He was probably the first one that was so heavily political in the late night shows too.
Yeah. So now we've got three heavy politicals, and they wondered where the audience went. Well, Gutfeld beats him in the ratings all the time. Well, that's where they went because
Right.
half the crowd went over because they didn't want to hear that because it wasn't funny anymore. It was mean-spirited, angry comedy.
Right.
They didn't want it. Boom, Gutfeld wins.
Well, he's definitely talking to an audience that does not have anybody else to talk to him, right?
Yep.
I mean, those four shows we were talking about, basically the same show.
Correct.
All right, I'm going to move on to NPR's president. And so recently, the NPR and PBS were defunded. Now, I have an article here that talks about the group of people trying desperately to refund them, but I don't think it's going to happen, at least not in this next year. But this is the president of NPR, in which she said, we're not biased. Now, it's true, you could do your job and be completely unbiased and still have these political opinions. But if you look at what she's saying, she's wearing a Biden for president. White silence is complicity. If you're white, today is the day to start a conversation in your community. Donald Trump is a racist. I'm done with late stage capitalism. And this is the president of NPR. If you want to have the guise of independence and non-partial opinions, this isn't the person you want running the show.
Right. Well, I heard she resigned today, but what people don't understand, if you go back to the history of NPR, it was originally set up as public radio for national emergencies. Well, they used the example of the Texas flooding. They didn't make their first announcement about flood warnings until 28 hours after it started raining. Well, that's way too late. I'm sorry. You needed a 15-minute, a 5-minute warning,
Right.
not 28 hours after. So they're failing as their main mission is to warn people, and they failed at that.
Right. Well, there's lots of other ways to get your news, and NPR, if you can fund yourself, have at it. You have the ability, since you're not federally funded, to do the bias of reporting that you like to do. And I don't know how you can watch or listen to NPR and not think that's pretty biased, because anytime I just flip on the radio and start listening to them, I'm immediately like, geez, come on, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to, let's see, run down here a little bit and talk about this. I've seen this before, but the World Health Organization, bioethics, wants to genetically modify humans so they become allergic to meat. So it's a minute long, so I'll play it.
2 examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption of meat, then it would actually really help the planet.
I already disagree with his premise.
Yep.
People don't eat too much meat, and it doesn't help the planet one way or another, help or hurt.
But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, "Wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it." I'm one of those, by the way. So,
I don't think this guy's ever eaten a steak, to be honest.
No.
Just to be clear.
But so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems. Some people tolerant. And some people are intolerant
Just going
to
to replay
crayfish.
this.
So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant.
We can use human engineering to make it the case that you're allergic to meat. And then we can solve these world problems for you because you're too stupid to understand how to do it yourself. Isn't that crazy?
And you wonder why Trump was so adamant about defunding WEF.
Exactly. And I've been saying this too.
Just because of morons like that.
This isn't the only thing they're doing too. They want to do this with mosquitoes, and you may think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but this is Bill Gates doing this. They want to be able to put the clot shot or the shots in mosquitoes, so you get a vaccination whether you like it or not once you get bitten by a mosquito. They've said it. I'm not making this stuff up. So it's scary. The people that think they're so much smarter than the rest of us, making decisions for how we're going to live and actually changing our bodies so that we're allergic to meat. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to jump all the way down to international news. I'm going to skip the rest of the conversation unless you have one that you really want, Dave.
No, I mean, the California governor who wants to turn the burned down areas, and we even discussed that already. It's like there's a secondary, so. And then the one below that, no cash bail law, set criminals free. We're back to our socialist Minneapolis, wannabe mayor and the wannabe mayor of New York, socialists. And there's another story earlier we skipped about honor killings in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
in the United States.
This is in the United States. It's like, this is what socialism is. Is this what you want? And so,
yeah, the thing about the decapitated body was found, and then he was arrested and immediately freed because of Illinois' no cash bail law. He was an illegal alien from Mexico, previously arrested. The Department of Homeland Security has picked him up, and he has now been deported, I believe. But it sounds like he needs to face real freaking time. Okay, let's go down to international news. You can tell I'm getting tired.
Well, it's all those protesters at the meeting you went tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Pushing your way through those.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
I want to show people that you may think that we're not loved around the world because of Trump, but look what Japan is doing.
To get our voices heard in the US, but we wanted to show that it's not just in the United States, but many people in Japan are also supporting President Trump.
I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it's pretty cool. They're having a rally there in Japan, and I know that there's a movement in Japan now to basically do the Make Japan Great Again thing.
Yeah.
They are they're getting their national pride back, which is good. Japan needs to do that.
Yeah, I seen a video today about very, very large group of people led by one female dancer, and all of them were doing the Trump dance. So
I think they put the Trump dance in one of the new video games too, like a football video game. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I like to see it, and it's good to see that people that want to stand up for their own people and their own countries Like when we talk about American first, you're jingoistic, you're nationalist, you're so horrible. No, I want this for every country. Every country should feel their own pride in where they're from. The people that live there make it better, and they're the reason it's better, and they should be proud of what they do. It's not just America first. America first is because I'm from America. If I was in Great Britain, I would feel the same way about Great Britain. If I was from Ireland, I would feel the same way about Ireland. It doesn't matter. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to feel pride because you're doing something in your community. You can feel pride about it.
And that's what the president should be doing of each individual country, is putting their country first.
Yes.
And
And
making
it shouldn't
their
be
country
shocking
a
we do it.
priority.
Right.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be shocking when we do it. It shouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah. So no one should say anything about what Trump is doing, and we shouldn't say. And Trump expects other countries to do exactly the same thing, as put
Right.
your country first. You do what's best for your country. I'm going to do what's best for my country, and that's the way it should be. Everything will work out if everyone has that same mentality.
Correct. Completely correct. Speaking of Great Britain, it'll be our only second international story, but this is the end, by the way, for Great Britain.
Yeah.
You thought it was going to be bad? Well, it's bad. Here it is.
Important that 16 and 17-year-olds have the vote because they're old enough to go out to work. They're old enough to pay taxes, so to pay in. And I think if you pay in, you should have the opportunity to say what you want your money spent on, which way the government should go. So I'm really pleased that we're able to bring more young people into our democracy and give them the chance to have a say over how their taxes are going to be paid.
So they're letting people 16 years old and above vote in elections in the UK now. They've been doing nothing but spend the last, 10, 15 years pulling in as many as many immigrants as they can into the UK who are having babies. So 15 years ago, they started bringing them in. They're having a ton of babies. Now they're going to be able 16-year-olds and vote. That country's done. It's absolutely done.
Yeah.
And a 16-year-old doesn't have the mental capacity to vote, but they are easily manipulated. And that's why a lot of people want them to vote. They want them to brainwash them in the schools and then have them vote the way they want to for Democrats. They'll keep them in power. They're not old enough to smoke. They're not old enough to drink. They're barely old enough to drive, but they can vote on important issues. Scary stuff.
Yeah, and they've already established that the minorities or the illegals are out reproducing everybody else, the natives, basically. So, like you said, that started 16, 15 years ago. So now they can vote. That's the end of the normal democracy over there. So
they won't come back from this. They're so far down with the way they're just taking everybody to jail if you're doing the minor offenses online, but they're letting these gangs go out apparently and just do anything and let them free. I don't think they're going to survive this.
No.
Oh, before we go into health and fitness, I've been remiss here. I didn't announce. I announced that one Minnesota senator who passed away, but two other people passed away of fairly high note. Ozzy Osbourne passed away today, and the guy who played Theo on Cosby Show passed away today. He was a young guy. He was only like 54.
Well, he passed away this last weekend, but still, it's close enough.
Okay.
Just he passed away in the last few days, I should say.
But his wasn't natural. It was you were telling me he got caught into a
rip current in Puerto Rico or Costa Rica, somewhere down there. So
Costa Rica on Sunday.
Okay.
The official cause of death was asphyxia, which is odd. You'd think it would be drowning, but maybe that.
I heard officially was accidental drowning, but who knows what they do down there? So could mean
it's
the
too
same
bad.
thing.
I mean, he seemed like a nice guy. I mean, from what I've seen, you never know an actor, so I can't say he was a good guy, but I saw him as things like he was in Community, and I really liked him in that. Seemed like
he played
seemed like a
bass
nice
in a jazz ensemble. So
Oh, I like him even more now. If he played
Yeah.
the drums, though, we'd be right on. I like bass players
If
too.
he played the drums, we probably wouldn't even be talking about him anymore. So
He'd have been dead years ago. Yeah, so it's unfortunate, but yeah, that was the trifecta of the threes. I didn't know about that until we started the show today. So it's unfortunate he was only 54. Seemed
Yeah.
like a really nice guy. So he's dead. And then Ozzy Osbourne, drug dealers around the world are crying and mourning at this point right now.
Yeah, even cats with 9 lives are going, how did he live so long?
You're right.
What does he get? 14, 15?
Who's the guy in the Rolling Stones? He's like, uh-oh, they're coming for us. Oh God. Keith Richards.
Keith Richards.
He's gonna start looking around. Let's see. Okay, so now I'll go on to the last segment, which is health and fitness, which is going to be a little longer than normal. And because I've actually got a few articles that I'm grouping in health and fitness, but this won't be too long. This will be pretty quick. So the first article is about healthcare, and if you look at this, in 1990, healthcare wasn't the top employer in any state. In 2024, so 34 years later, it's the top employer in almost all of the states, in 39 states.
Yeah.
You know, manufacturing, if you can see this little graph, this light blue is manufacturing, the orange is retail, green is hospitality, and then public administration, which that was really weird. And now healthcare is the top employer of all these states except for a small slice of manufacturing. Now that's either loss of manufacturing or just gain in this, but my God.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota had Medtronic, and they raised taxes so high they left the U.S. They're in Ireland or Scotland or something like that. So I don't know how they, but Medtronic, the manufacturing side of it, is still in the States. So it's like, how do they technically aren't a Minnesota business anymore. So
Yeah.
how do how do they come up with these stats, I guess, would be the next question.
Right.
But still, it just shows you how everything is, what we've turned the U.S. into, basically.
Right.
I think Trump wants to turn it back into manufacturing. So
yeah, that would be my choice too, because if we manufacture things in this city or in this country, we won't be dependent on another country when things go bad. Like we saw during COVID-19 when China just said, well, you're not getting your prescription meds because we're not shipping them over. And that was a serious wake-up call, or should have been for legislature. It was for me. I didn't know that. And then talking about healthcare, let's just find out what this person said.
I see we need more bandwidth.
What's that?
I see we need more bandwidth.
Was it failing?
Yeah, we're still on the maps.
Oh, probably because I
can hear
switched
your
tabs.
computer's talking, but not.
I'm sorry. Let me
we're not
do that.
displaying anything.
Let me do that correctly. Again.
My whole house.
Oh yeah.
My husband, me, our baby daughter. Okay, we're all on Medicaid. Without Medicaid, I wouldn't be able to have the birth control in my arm that I have. Without Medicaid, I wouldn't be able to have the antidepressants that I have at no cost to me. Without Medicaid, I wouldn't be able to go to therapy to continue to be the mom I am to the 3 kids and 2 separate houses that I have to do. Without Medicaid, my daughter wouldn't be able to go and get her vaccines and go and get all of the things that she needs as an 18-month-old baby. Without Medicaid, my husband wouldn't be able to go and get the medications that he needs and the treatment that he needs for his disability. Without Medicaid, not a single person in my house would have health care. We are low income. Our only income is my husband's SSI. We're on food stamps. We use food pantries. Okay? Without Medicaid, we would never be healthy. And for us, it's not even like body, it's all mental. For my husband, for me, and then we have a baby who needs Medicaid for vaccines, who needs Medicaid for. I already have 2 children who are diagnosed with autism. So what if she ends up getting diagnosed with autism? We need Medicaid. We need Medicaid. And if you live in America, everybody deserves free healthcare. That's it. I just love.
Everybody deserves free health care. We, as you and I, go to work several days a week to support her entire life. You would think that she might decide not to have more kids at some point. And, that's probably what Planned Parenthood was for, is to get the contraceptives or to get the tubes tied or whatever she's got to do so she doesn't have more kids. But maybe when you have mental problems and your husband has mental problems and neither one of you work and you're on government aid, maybe not the time to have another kid. But that's just me.
She didn't explain her husband's disability either, which I'm assuming is he's deaf and he's blind.
But she said it was all mental. I gotcha. Oh, hey-oh.
Oh, yep. I mean,
Okay.
you can only tolerate that for so long, really.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, her talking like that, yeah. So that was definitely the deaf.
I'm getting a little punchy here at this late hour. So I will say that Marjorie Taylor Greene has introduced a Clear Skies Act. So we've seen states introducing this, but it really matters at the federal level because the feds control the skies above a certain ceiling. Yep. So 28 seconds, we'll play this. We will try to play this.
To make my Clear Skies Act has been filed. This is my legislation to ban weather modification and geoengineering of all kinds. Finally, we can really take the fight in Washington to protect our skies, protect our water, protect our atmospheres, and most of all, protect our families. Thanks for your support, everyone. Look for my legislation, the Clear Skies Act.
Okay, so Clear Skies Act.
Yep.
So I have been shamed by people saying I am a conspiracy theorist, saying that this is happening. And I want to show you this page by the Texas government website, a summary of rain enhancement operations in Texas, where they talk about cloud seeding operations. Been doing it for decades, throughout the 1950s, 60s, 70s. This is the government website. So if you don't believe me, try to believe a government site. I guess if you believe the government site saying that they're doing this, and have been doing it since the 1950s. So that's why I support this. I would really like it so that people don't think that they are smart enough to modify the weather that we live under and not and think that they know of all the ramifications of what they're doing and side effects and the downstream. It's just something we shouldn't be playing God with. We're not smart enough. I guarantee it. I've never seen a government program smart enough to do something like this. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, and what are they modifying it with? How do we know what the side effects are going to be? I mean, you could look at the diseases that have increased thousands of percent, over the last 20, 30 years. Who says that this isn't part of that?
Right.
Contributing to these problems that we're having. That lady on the video, she said 2 of her kids had autism. Well, where does she live? I mean, is this autism coming from the clouds? Well, we don't know.
Yeah. So my understanding is they're spraying aluminum, some sort of aluminum chemical. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But aluminum's not good for you.
They banned it from they banned aluminum from all of our antiperspirants, our deodorants.
Right, because it was bad. And So, and over a long period of time, what does that do to people? I don't remember ever signing up to be a tester for this.
Right.
But clearly in Texas, they're doing it for sure. And I've been saying this since the 70s when I watched the difference between a contrail of a airplane that dissipated in about probably around 10 to 30 seconds and stuff that lingered there for a long time until you could start seeing clouds being formed. I think they've been doing this for a long time here in the state. That may be a conspiracy theorist, but I don't know.
No, but I would like to thank her for watching our podcast for the last.
It's true.
And she's finally, someone's finally taking our advice and getting this legislation done. It was pretty.
Maybe
nice.
we can get her on the show. MTG, come on the show.
Yep.
We'll get you on. We'll have a conversation. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Hour 35. I think we had a good show tonight. Anything else you want to talk about before we go?
No, we covered a lot of things tonight, so we got to let that sink in, and once that sinks in, then we'll move on to the next one.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody that came on. I hope you found it interesting or compelling. Yeah, if you stayed for the whole show, I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe our channel. We have these conversations every 30. I will post this on Thursday at our regular show time. We're doing it on a Tuesday today because I'll be out of town at that time. So I appreciate y'all. Shaka to y'all. I'm Sean.
I'm Dave.
And this is Duluth Conservative. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.